and thanks for joining me in this session where I'm going to be chatting with ReedDavis, founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. In this session, Reed is going to be walking us through how to become a health detective, but I'm going to be somewhat of a detective and dig a little bit into his business and how he runs Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. Reed is an OG in the functional medicine and the virtual practice space. And so I wanted to make sure to pick his brain about how he runs his business. So we're going to be talking about things like how to break free and build a virtual practice, how to build and support a virtual team or transition your brick and mortar team online. And we'll also talk about the importance of timing when asking for referrals. He's got some great ideas and some great strategies for us. So without further ado, let's start the conversation with Reed. Hey, Reed, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I want to get started just learning a little bit more about you and your business. Specifically, how did you get started in this industry? And, you seem like an OG virtual practitioner. How long ago did you get started in the virtual world, and what really led you into that?
Well, thanks so much for asking. I love the whole story. Over 20 years ago, I was actually in environmental law and saving the planet, air, birds, water, trees, cleaning up the whole earth. And I got kind of sick and tired of seeing dead birds and dead animals, dead water, dead trees. And I started thinking, well, what's it doing to us people, including me? So it was really kind of exciting to start a whole new area and people's health, including mine, like I said. And I went to work in a wellness center, and they gave me the job of running the place. And I took classes with the owner. The owner was a chiropractor who was going to get her diplomat program in nutrition, said I could hang out with her. And so I went to all the classes, and in between classes, this is amazing, Nicole, she let me work on her patients. So in between classes, I got to practice what we had done in the previous sessions at the nutrition thing. And I fell in love with the clinical side of the practice. I just fell in love with working with people. And I became a really good recruiter. And the real claim to fame, I guess, is that I started running lab tests on these people. Instead of just doing the normal nutrition, what I was learning in the classes was great, but I felt like I was just a supplement salesman or something, really. So I decided that I really wanted to fix them and not just sell them stuff. And everyone walking in the door had already seen 4, 6, 8, 10 practitioners, and were still weren't well. And it just blew my mind that they weren't well after seeing so many people. So again, I determined I would be the last person they needed to see. I'm going to figure out what's actually wrong. That was pretty naive, I think, back then, but I set my task and I started running labs. I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people over the next 8 to 10 years. I really ran more labs than any 4 or 5 practitioners. That's what I was told by the lab people. They asked, who the hell are you? And so I was doing this incredible, huge volume practice because I didn't know you couldn't. I just figured that was normal, work hard. And so so I figured out my whole system of investigation into underlying causes and all the natural protocols, how to treat everything at once, work on every cell, tissue, organ, and system at once, because I just knew that was the only thing that was going to fix people. I had great mentorship. But over all those years, Nicole, I made my own observations about who got better and who didn't. And so that story goes to where I now teach a course in functional lab work and natural protocols and health coaching. So the way I got into the virtual part of it is I was lecturing like once a week, sometimes twice a week. I was doing screenings, like health screenings, twice a week. And my job again was to build the practice, build the business, and I built my own along with it. I became kind of a nutrition health coaching practice before they called us health coaches, way back. And I started lecturing farther and farther away from the office. This is back in the day. There were no cell phones. It was just I had a pager literally on my hip, on your belt. You probably don't remember that. And And so I found myself lecturing like 60 miles away from the office and up to 90 miles away from the office. And I just recall one day I would, give my talk, and then I would offer to run labs on the people in the audience. That was my whole thing, running labs. And so one day I just said, you know what? I'll save you the office visit fee. We can work over the phone, the telephone. And people just loved it. And I'm talking 20 years ago, 17, 18, 19, 20. People weren't used to that. They were used to having to drive to the office. And I said, look, I'll mail you the kits, the test kits, or I used to carry them around in my trunk of my car, and I would be lecturing, usually at a library or someplace, and people, they were like, well, I want to do some testing. Let me run some kits. So anyway, so I said, all right, we'll save you the office visit fee, and it really was just saving me the trouble of having to meet them at the office. And so I used to mail out a package about this thick of all the test results and my charts and graphs and diagrams and all the educational materials. And of course, it was in a certain order. So I would, once I got all the test results back and their intake forms back, which were all filled up by hand and mailed in back in those days, then I'd send them out this package. And I would usually make appointments in the evening, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, even 8 o'clock at night, so that I could have the husband on the extension line. So I'm calling a landline, talking to most of the clients were women, and then their husband would be listening in. And I would insist upon that. I want your husband there to listen in. And that's how I gave my original results and recommendations sessions. And it worked so well that I realized at some point I didn't even need an office. But I think we pioneered the idea of distance coaching, what's called distance coaching now. And now, of course, that's the model I teach. So that's my background, how I got into this business, from environmental law to health and wellness. And then from brick and mortar, because I was in an office. I mean, I still worked there for years. But the farther away I lectured and did workshops, we just ended up having to come in the office, work over the phone. Nowadays, you've got all these advantages, but that's how it started.
That's awesome. Lab testing that you mentioned is something I want to come back to in a little bit. But
Okay,
I wanted
sure.
to point out that you said about like even 20 years ago when you were doing this on the phone, just the summit presenters that I've interviewed so far, like Dr. Dan Kalish and Dr. Evan Hirsch have come on talking about telemedicine. One thing that's come up is that people actually love this. People
Mm-hmm.
love, like maybe there's a little bit of like tech that you need to, especially now people are doing Zoom and video calls, but something that I'm hearing, and you just stated it right then, is even back then that patients and clients do enjoy not having to get in the car, not having to drive, especially, you're in Southern California, some people are in LA, not having to get stuck in traffic to go from one place to the other. So I think right now, there's maybe a feel, especially because we're in COVID times, that the way that things are changing are
Yeah.
not beneficial. But there's, I think that there's some evidence to the contrary. Can you kind of talk us a little bit about how you see things changing right now in the health coaching world? For
There's never been, yes, there's never been a better time to be a health coach and to work virtual. Physicians left and right are doing telemedicine, and it's becoming widely accepted. And yet, I think, like most things in medicine, they're about 20 years behind what we've been doing. So I've been teaching this course in distance coaching for 12 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of physicians have come on board. Now they wonder, well, how can I get around the standard of care, which might come up as a question later, but there's a way to do it. So anyone can do this. And now with the internet and Zoom, like we're on a Zoom meeting right now, yet we're face to face. You don't have to mail out a package this thick and wait for it to get there and then set up an appointment by phone and all that stuff. It's just so automatic now. It's unbelievable, just how well it all works. Again, with the cell phones, I started with a pager. That was back in the day when there was fax machines. No one even has a fax machine anymore. And that's just.
And I did have a pager back. Just
Oh, did you?
clarify that. I am
Yeah.
old enough that pagers were in my teenage years. Just
Yeah.
barely.
So, yeah. So there's never been a better time to go virtual, I guess is the expression.
Mhm.
Go online, do it all from your desk. I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to that, of course, which we could talk about if you want.
Yeah, let's talk about the advantages and the drawbacks of, going online, being a virtual practice.
Well, like you just said about COVID, now today everyone's at home. We've even seen kind of an uptick in our course registrations because people are at home and they want to learn, they want to do something. And our course is one that you can take to learn to be real super top of line health coach. And there's people who are interested in their own health who want to do it. There's people who are massage therapists or nutritionists or allied health professional. We have chiropractors, acupuncturists, even some medical doctors. They're sitting at home,
Mhm.
and it's like, well, why not learn? So why not learn something that was kind of born that way? Like you don't need an office to do what we do, and you can really do a lot of good in the world and really help a lot of people. Obviously, if you don't have a brick and mortar, you're going to save a lot of money on overhead, or it's going to be lower. You still have to designate an area in your house. But look at the freedom it would give you. I get up every morning, and if it's light enough, it's usually dark, but I'll go outside and just put my feet in the dirt and, drink my coffee and have a nice time. Then I don't have to go, I don't have to get dressed. I can spend the whole day with just a shirt on and no pants even. You can work in your underwear
Yeah,
and
you can
things.
have pajamas on
So
right now. Nobody knows.
yeah, yeah, and I know people work in their pajamas. I mean, I'm a little more disciplined than that. And you do need discipline. I'll say that that's an important consideration, that you gotta know when it's time to go to work. I live by my calendar. I'm looking at my right screen. I have two screens. I have a big screen right in front of me. I have a big screen right next to that with my calendar on it and my emails and stuff. My working screen is here. And so it's fun. I can go to work. Now, if I want to schedule 2 hours a day to spend outside, which is what every health coach should do, you need to be walking the talk.
Mhm.
So that means you can do that when you work from home and when your clients are all over the world, which is another thing. Your clients could be anywhere. They
Mhm.
don't have to be within 10 miles of your office or 20 miles or 30 miles. And who's going to drive more than 30 miles? Like you say, no one even wants to drive today. So it also gives you a lot of flexibility in your schedule, as we said. You're going to make more money because you're not going to have the rent to pay at the office. You're going to have flexibility with your staffing. Like I have 20 people working for me right now to help with the course, and we're all over the world. I have mentors who work for me in Australia and United Kingdom and Canada and all over the United States. Um, Virtual assistants and people like that. Some of them I have never really met in person, but we know each other. We're on the same team. They're all graduates of my program too. I hire from within if I can.
Can I ask
So
you
again,
about
you
that?
can
Can I ask you about
say
that?
again.
I said, can I
Yeah.
ask you about this? This is not something that we've talked about on any of the interviews yet. And I know that a lot of people who are watching this either are managing staff or want to hire staff. I want, because you said you have a team of over 20 people. Do you have any best practices to share with us about either hiring or how to manage a virtual team? Because I know a lot of people are transitioning even from brick and mortar. How do you keep things
Yes.
organized amongst your organization?
I'm pretty good organizer for one thing. I have run companies as big as 60 people, and so 20 is very manageable. And I use an organizational chart, and so everybody knows their job. We use, you know, key performance indicators, or what I just call roles or hats. We write up every single job. The other thing is that I'm always expanding. And so we're just in business, you have to keep an expansion mentality. So I hire mostly graduates from my program because they want to help. They're like, wow, this is the greatest thing. I've never been to a course like this, and I know you have a great team, Reed, and I want to be part of your team. And I have special talents in this area, that area. So you have people offering up all the time, and then you just need to keep the roles and goals of each area separate, or working as a team. But in my business, if you don't move up, you're probably going to move out. Like you either move up in the company or it's time for you to go do something else. So I keep this expansion mentality. That's the most important thing. Then I keep the roles and duties very much written up. Like we have, again, writing up for every job. And then I hire people who are creative. The most important thing to me is your attitude, not your aptitude. Aptitude is really important, especially around the technical things. Like you got to be able to handle, all the different softwares we have, from Infusionsoft to the platforms for the learning program and things like that. So you have to hire competent, able people but number one thing is their teamwork. They're all about our mission and and they just love doing the work, and you know, pay them well. That's the other thing is, and you can pay really well when when you generate a lot of business, and just I believe in keeping everyone happy to some extent. Now, I got my rules, and I've let people go and moved them on and things like that. But I think those are a couple tips anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
staffing is really important. You got to be organized. I've got a really good organizational chart. I'd be happy to talk to someone about it if they want to call me or whatever.
Yeah, I know that was a little sidebar there, but just once you said that, I thought this is not something that we've covered at all. And I know a lot of people listening are figuring out, like, how do I have a virtual team, or how do I take my team? Like, they may have a brick and mortar that's closed down, and how do I liaise with my team and create even things like creating good rapport amongst the team, like having a
Hmm.
space where you can, and I'm in a space where, like, this year I've hired a few I was a solopreneur for a long time, so learning, this is personal to me too, learning how to best manage a team, and when you create a completely virtual team, how do you create spaces where you can have rapport, where you can have like a group dynamic? Do you guys do any kind of like retreats, or do you have like a group where you
Yeah,
connect? Oh, that's awesome.
I have my course supervisor. I just hired a really wonderful person for our post grad. So we have a post grad alumni association. Well, I formed an official association for the alumni, and I hired an executive director who's just got all these great ideas, benefits and features, and why you want to be a member, and how to support the graduates in business and in their personal health journeys, and other quests and things like that. So I don't know. We just seem to attract good people, um, and I think if you hire the right people and pay them well, you can expect a lot out of them, and they don't usually fail. And we're also really understanding when it care business, whatever it is, and see, when you're working virtually, you can make it up later. Like, I might get an email that came at 10 o'clock at night. Well, I'm in bed by 10, but it comes in. So that's the other beauty, is you let your staff have a little flexibility too. As long as they get the job done, it's all good. The only people who have to be somewhere at a certain time is for meetings. And in my sales crew, course registration crew, they cover the chat on my website, so they have to be available during those hours. Otherwise, everyone just has a lot of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing about just working from home is there's nothing to interrupt your business. Like right now, there's a lot of rioting going on. You don't have to worry about riot unless you live in a bad neighborhood or something. Like, hey, none of it seems to bother us. Like what's going on in the world. We already work from home. Like when people said, "Oh, COVID-19, you got to work from home," I go, "Tell me something I don't know." Like fine, and the more the merrier. Let's all work from home and do some good in the world. And the communication is not a problem. Just like we're talking now, face to face on Zoom. And I mean, you have to know how to use a camera and Zoom. And another thing I have is Skype. Skype is I have chats going on Skype, so I have my little groups, and I'm always checking my Skype chats. You could have a private one-on-one, or you could be a group of people. So I talk to my individual groups through chat, and they talk to each other there, and we all see what the other one's saying. So it's like a ongoing It's can be just very cool. Plus, you're able to give each other high fives. You know, like someone will say, "Hey, you know, such and such. I just had this great case where this happened and this happened," and everybody can put little hearts or little thumbs up signals. And I mean, it sounds, you know, like tech, but it's just people getting along with each other. I find it to be fun. We have a lot of fun, and I use my flexibility. You're also open 24/7. You don't have, oh, well, I'm not at the office until Tuesday at 2 o'clock, you know. No, I'll get to it. You know, we have 24-hour guaranteed turnaround time on everything.
I was going to say, it's funny that you brought up about COVID, because I kind of felt the same way when everything went down. I was like looking around and I'm like, so I'm a web design and branding specialist, and I've worked from home for over a decade. And I look around and I'm like, well, my life is pretty much the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like not being able. I finally went out to dinner the other night for the first time in 2 months,
Yeah.
you know, because we're in San Diego, they're starting to open up. Uh, and so I went to one of my old haunts, and we had a great time with, you know, some good friends and that. So it's opening up a little bit, and that's nice.
And what I like about that, how this conversation that we're having now, especially around health coaching and bringing it online, it's pretty timeless, because what this, and for me, like putting this whole summit together, is about how to future proof your business, right? So it's not about whether things
Hmm.
open up or not, whether you're going back into the office or not. It's like, what can you put into your business now that will give you some, one, flexibility, two, some security in your business. And I feel the same way as you, that right now is the best time to go virtual. And on that point, like, what are a couple steps that people can do to get started bringing their business online? Health coaches specifically.
Yeah. Well, if you've been working out of brick and mortar, write to everyone and work your warm market, if you will. You know, there's people who already know you, they like you, they trust you, they want to keep working with you. You know, I have a personal trainer. I'm a gym and a big Pilates reformer and some other equipment in there. So my Pilates teacher comes out once a week, and you know, she had to close her Pilates studio down because nobody can come in for a couple months, and she ended up just kind of getting rid of it. But what she was doing was making videos, you know, so she could still have a virtual practice. She just, with her existing customers, said, "Don't worry, we'll do, like, you know, we'll still do Tuesdays at 10 a.m., but I'll see you on Zoom or whatever platform." And so she was doing that live, and then she started recording it so she could sell the videos and things like that. So you got to start with people who know you, like you, and trust you already.
Mhm.
If you don't have any of those, you're probably in trouble. But start with them, and then ask for referrals. You know, if they like you and they trust you and you're doing a good job with them, get really good at asking for referrals. Like, you know, the best people at asking for referrals are insurance salesmen. Just listen to an insurance salesman. So, Reed, you know, I know you're happy with your insurance, and we've been doing a great job for you for all these years. So, who do you know that I can help? Because I'm sure you want to see them get some help too. So that's how they do it. And that's how you can do it. As soon as someone is 50% better, and we monitor changes and track people's health. You have their health goal and you have a plan to get there, and you're walking the plan, and they're doing things. And we also grade. We have these questionnaires. We've got the lab work, but we also use questionnaires for a point system. And when they're 50% down in their complaint points, if you will, if you want to put it that way, it's time for ask for referrals. They don't have to be finished with the program. They don't have to be completely better. Everything's just perfect. Number one, I don't know anyone who's in perfect health. I don't know anyone who's at the top of the stairway to health. You know, I'm on the stairway. I have less steps to go than a lot of people, but I'm still stepping. And, you know, our job, by the way, is to get people who have a lot of steps to go on the stairway. Just get them on the stairway. Get them taking those steps. So no one's at the top. And, you know, you're going to, when people make enough progress that they're feeling better and they say, "Gosh, I'm glad to have met you." Reed, I sure am glad we signed up to work together. Or, you know, just anything. My husband says I look prettier, whatever it takes. You say, well, gosh, that's fantastic. I'm sure you feel better, and that's good. And you probably know some people who you'd like to see them feel better too. So who can I call that you know? And ask for get really good at asking for referrals, and they don't have to be, at the top of the stairway, because they're probably never going to get there.
Love that. I just made a note of that too, and that's something that's come up for me personally, just in another interview too, that I had never even thought of before. So I always ask for referrals at the very end, and I think most people do, right? You want to wait until the
Mm,
end where you feel like you've done a good job. Uh, but I was
yeah.
having a conversation the other day, and the person was saying there are different waves of the client journey, and you'll go through these peaks and
Yes.
troughs. And so it's finding that right place. And I like how you said, you have that kind of checklist in the questionnaire, and finding a good place within your process, whatever the business is, to ask for referral. So it might not always be at the end. It might be at a place where they're feeling really good, or right, they sent you a Facebook message about how great they feel. It's like that is the right time. And probably a testimonial as well too, to just kind of talk through the process. So I'm making a note of that myself, and kind of underlining a few times for the people listening that we don't always have to wait to the end of working with somebody to ask for the referral or testimonial or something like that. I love that you said that.
You know, you, there's other ways to do that, just by the way, because you could have referral day and just write every single client you have, and just say, hey, it's referral day. And so today's the day I ask my clients to refer people, whether it's a friend or coworker or family member who isn't 100%, who isn't up to snuff. And you know that I've helped you, and likely I could help them too. But the only way I could help that person is if I get to talk to him.
Mhm.
So here's my link. I want you to send my calendar link out, and you have it set up for just half-hour appointments. I give free half-hour appointments to anyone with a health problem that they want to change, and I discover if I can help them, number one, and do I want to, number two. I interview each prospect really thoroughly. I have an amazing onboarding process that I've worked out over the years to decide, can I help them and do I want to.
Mhm.
I don't let anyone pick my brain or any of that stuff. It's let's see if you qualify to come into my practice. So anyway, but you can ask for those. You can so in addition to waiting until your client is feeling better, and then sort of randomly picking a time, like obviously if you're talking to them and say, I feel like crap today, it's
I
not a
guess
good day to ask them for don't ask for a referral that day. Well, gee, I'm sure you know some other people like to feel crappy too. Don't ask them that day. No. So again, you got the sort of random wait till they say something really nice, but you could just have referral day once a month, right? Your clients, it's referral day. We did a thing around Christmas all the time. Back when I had the brick and mortar, the office, it was special Christmas thing, referral contest, and lots of ways to get referrals. But you better be asking for them. And if a good percentage, I don't know what's legitimate, but probably half your business should come from referrals. And I know people who tell me more, like 80%. But I'd settle for half my new ones just on referrals.
Yeah, it's a good metric.
The rest you are going to have to do a little marketing. You got to create content. You got to get it up. You have to be a teacher
Mhm.
and teach. Just keep pounding out the content, pounding out the content. Um, I have what I do for outflow for the company, and I have staff that have other they write blogs. I edit most of them, but and other things going on. But you got to put out content. Back in the day, my content was my lectures.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have email. Well, there was, but no one read it. Half the people I knew didn't have computers. So, especially the older people back then. You know what I mean? So, but you're constantly outflowing. I was screening. I was lecturing, like leaving the office, going out and doing all this work. People don't want to work that hard anymore, I don't think, but you have to have constant outflow.
Mhm.
The rest comes from referrals. So the more referrals, the less of the other junk that you have to do.
Yeah.
That a
No,
lot of people don't. Go
I
ahead.
love this. I love this framework, and I like the way that you just set this all out for us. I want to wrap up just because I want to respect your time
Okay.
but I want to talk a little bit about the program that you have for people. Can you talk us through a little bit about it, what it is, and how they can find out more about you and working together?
Sure. Well, I teach a course in functional lab work and natural protocols.
Mhm.
So the way a health coach looks at lab work, and you can run lab work, your client's actually the one running it, but you can help them get that lab work done. And that's the key to it. So I created what we call our medical director program 12 years ago because I was able to run labs in the shop with the doctors there. They just let me. And then when I started teaching, I had to come up with a model. So I've created a medical director program. It was one of the very first. There might have been maybe one other direct. It's called a direct consumer lab testing program, but ours is only for our graduates. It's a big trust factor where my graduates are trained to interpret the labs like a health coach should. So we're not doing a medical diagnosis and treatment of that specific thing that you find. We're not just selling supplements and God forbid drugs, to change the numbers on the paper. We use the numbers on the paper to indicate what's really wrong. We call it a healing opportunity. So for 20 years, I've been studying lab work and what are the healing opportunities. What does it tell me that the client needs to do? That grew out of working in an office where I realized 20 years ago, coming in the office doesn't do them that much good. It's what they do between visits.
Mm.
So I became an expert at what you do between visits, the diet, the rest, the exercise, the stress reduction, the supplementation and things. It's what you do between visits that matters. So that's our coaching program. But you got to do the investigation first. So I teach a course in the functional lab work, saliva, urine, blood, and stool, the latest tests because tests are always changing. There's a lot of development going on. Some really good labs, by the way, and they're good at identifying what the person needs to improve, whether it's the hormones or the immune system or digestion or detoxification, energy production, autonomic balance, and things like that. All that can be tested. Well, that's how you assess that and their history and complaints and all the things. Again, my onboarding session is pretty awesome. Then you can customize the program, the diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction supplements. That Nicole will teach or improve every cell, every tissue, every organ, every system in the body. The entire organism improves. So we're not being doctors going, "Oh, look, I found your hypothyroidism. Here's your medication." No, you might see hypothyroidism, but we just look at it as stress, as uh, caused adaptive changes in your body, and it's thrown things out of balance, and you're very far away from homeostasis. How do we get back there? So again, it's what you do between visits that matters, and I teach a whole course in that. And people graduate and they join our alumni, and that's where we support them in business with some of the tips we've been talking about and programs. We do at least 4 programs a week for our graduates per week,
Good.
whether it's business related, new labs or new products or whatever it might be, just meeting their needs.
And the foundational program, is this over a year or a couple months, or what's the time structure like?
It's a rolling start, so you could start today, and you can put the information in the show notes there, where they can find out about it
Great.
and start. And most people take 6 months to complete it. It can be done in less. We give you up to a year. It shouldn't take you a year, but we try to keep it driving. And it's pretty much mostly asynchronous, but there's a lot of mentoring. So you have 10 sessions with a mentor, and you work on your own health first. That alone would be worth the price of admission. You're going to get on that stairway and you're going to make some steps up just going through the course, but you're learning how to do it to help others. So it's a walk your talk program too. And I just can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, and I like you. That kind of brings me back, and you said that in the beginning. This idea of if you're a health coach or a functional medicine practitioner, that you walk your talk too. That we actually be outside a few hours a day, that we're doing the meditation, that we're eating well, that we're taking care of ourselves, you know. So I love that you've kind of baked that into the program as well. That's super cool.
Yeah, just to reemphasize, there's three steps to our program, and this is what I train on. Number one is the assessment. So I teach the lab, but you need to know the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry behind saliva, urine, blood, and stool testing, and how to apply that to a person who's not well. And most people who are not well have tried 10 things already.
Mhm.
So part of the problem I see is they're getting like a specific diagnosis for a specific thing, and then they're working on that. And really, you need to be much more holistic. So we do all the assessments, but our program is holistic. It really looks at everything you should do between visits, all that stuff. And we have a coaching program that kind of makes them do it. So you assess, you design a program. Someone's got to run the program. And that's where health coaching is so critical, and why doctors are hiring health coaches. You know, they're trying to get health coaching reimbursed by insurance. I don't care much about that because none of my students or graduates want that little tiny reimbursement they're going to give you. We want to get paid well, you know, so we have our own practices. It's all cash, and we don't care about that. But I'm just using that as a reflection that doctors are hiring health coaches, and they're also have their own businesses,
We
and it's
have
remarkable.
just to point out that we have doctors who are on the summit as presenters who are medical doctors who are working as health coaches. Like
They,
they're
they,
on
they
a different
yeah.
role, you know, as a health coach, because they're finding an easier way to work with patients. They're finding it a better way to teach and educate, or more enjoyable, or they're making more money. So like you could even be a doctor too and be a health coach at the same time, which I think you know, until
Absolutely.
I didn't even know that was possible. So I'm like, that is really cool.
Well, the doctors are loving our model because I can have them or facilitate them running labs on their patients, and they could call them clients too, all over the country, all over the world. We're in 50 countries.
Yeah.
And so the biggest problem physicians have is they have to see a person in their office before they can do anything. And as a health coach, you don't have to do that. So
Mhm.
for doctors who know someone in 3 states over that they don't want to make fly or drive over to see, just use our system, and you'll be able to work with that person virtually without having to see them in your office first. That's the true direction, and that's where telemedicine is going to land. And it's because health coaches have learned to integrate with physicians and vice versa.
Yeah, I love that. And so for me, just to kind of wrap up, and we will put all the links and stuff underneath of the video so people can grab information. But, you know, what I hear and what you're saying is there's never been a better time to become a health coach. And there's never been a better time that people really need your help as a health coach too. There's so much stress going on right now in the world. People need even more than that little pinpoint diagnosis. People need education on how to live well and live a healthy life. And so I appreciate everything that you brought to this interview, all your expertise and your
Yeah.
skills. We're really, really honored to have you here.
Thank you, Nicole. I want to say one last thing about that.
Of course, yeah.
There's never been a bad time to be a health coach. It's always been a great profession. We didn't call it that 20 years ago, but you know, there's never been a bad time, and now is an especially good time because of people hunkering down and wanting to work on themselves. They realize that sitting around the house watching TV is just making them fat and stupid. So they're willing to do things, and we're here to serve.
That's a beautiful point to end on. Reed, thank you so much for being here with us today. Bye, everyone. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here with us. I hope that in this session you learned something impactful and something powerful that's going to help transform your business. Before I leave, I just wanted to let you know that this session was sponsored by my business, Brand Better, branding, websites, funnels, and more for the wellness entrepreneur. If you want to learn more about my business, you can head over to brandbetter.online to find out more. And I also wanted to make sure to invite you to join me on Friday, the last day of the conference, July 3rd. for a half day masterclass where I'm going to help you put this all together, the Wellness Business Accelerator, and make sure that we take all of the great concepts that you just learned in all of these amazing presentations with these great rockstar speakers and make a plan for your business. So it's going to be live and interactive. Check out your email to make sure what time it is on Friday, but it is going to be a live half day masterclass. So I hope that you join me. I'd love to see you there. We're going to get some really good work done and make sure that we take all of these concepts and they're not just these, just sit and watch and take some notes and not actually employ any of these strategies. I want to make sure that these are real actionable things that you put in your business. So join me there on Friday. Go over and check out brandbetter.online to learn more about my business. And I'll see you on the next interview. Bye.